Hi everyone, in this video we're gonna learn about arrays in Java. So first and foremost, an array is just a container for elements of the same type. So for example, I want to have an array of integer values. So here, this is my array, and inside this array, the elements are positioned based on their index. And in programming, we always count from number 0. So for example, I have the first index here. So this index is index 0. So I'm gonna say that the index of this specific position here is 0, and inside of it I have number 25. So this element is an integer value, number 25, and it is part of this array. So it is positioned at index 0, okay? So if I want to add another element to this array, I just need to say the index, so I'm gonna open the element here and I'm gonna enter the value inside of it. So I'm gonna enter number 3. So notice that now the position of this element inside this array is at index number 1, okay? So we always count from number 0. So when I say what is the index of the first element inside this array, the index is always 0. Okay, and the second element's index is 1. So again, if I want to add another element here, I just need to say, for example, the value is number 4, and now the index of this element is 2. But now we've got 3 elements, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Now let's go into code and just start coding, and it will completely make sense. So just go ahead and open your Android Studio. And then let's just go ahead and open the activity_main.xml. Open the app folder, res, layout, activity_main.xml. So here we're going to have a reference to our image views. This one, the dice one, and the dice 2. So just select the dice 1, and the ID should be img dice 1. And then select the second dice, and the ID should be img dice 2, and just go ahead and open your main activity class. So here I'm gonna open the project pane, Java, the first package here, and then main activity. So notice that we use the packages in Java in order to organize our files. You'll learn more about this later. So now let's go back to our main activity class. So here let's add the references to our XML components. So inside this onCreate method, here after this setContentView, I'm gonna say image view, and the name is going to be img dice 1, or you can say dice image 1, assignment operator, find view by ID or .id.img dice 1, semicolon. And then we need to have the second reference, image view, dice image 2, assignment operator, find view by ID, r.id.img dice 2, semicolon. So now that we have these references, now I'm gonna create an array of the dice images that we have inside our project. So if you open your project pane, and then go to the rest folder, here we've got the drawable folder. And if you open the drawable folder, you can see your dice images here. And something that you should note here is that, notice the name of these images. We are following a pattern here. We are not allowed to use dash and, for example, some special characters in our names of our images. For example, you cannot use an uppercase letter as the name of your images that you add to your project. Otherwise, the Android Studio is going to complain and it won't allow you to run or build your application. So you are not allowed to use some special characters, uppercase letters, and dash, okay? And here, for example, I'm using only the lowercase letters and numbers. And here for the background image, I am using an underline. But Android Studio wouldn't allow me to do that because that's against the rules of Android Studio. So here I'm using only underline. Okay, now let's go back to our code. Now that we have these references, we are going to have an array of dice images. So how we can create that? First, you should know that the references that we are going to have as an array of images in our code would be of type integer. So I told you already about the R class, and the R class contains all of those references. So if I want to access the images that I have inside the drawable folder from my Java code, I need to pass integer values, because those integer values will be the address of these resources that I have inside my project. So it won't be of type image, it will be just of type integer. So this means that we need to create an array of type integer. Okay, so I need to say integer, and then I need to put a pair of brackets in order to indicate that I am creating an array, and then I am going to create the name of my array. So the name is going to be dice images, assignment operator. So now we need to create the array. So far it was just the name of a variable of type array, but now we need to create the actual array so we can assign it to these dice images. So the syntax for creating an array in Java is using an opening curly brace followed by a closing curly brace and a semicolon at the end. Okay, so now inside the curly braces we can add the elements. So the element at index 0 is going to be r.drawable.dice1, comma. So notice that now this dice1 is at index 0 of this dice images array. Now let's add the second element, which is going to be at index number 1. I'm going to say r.drawable.dice2. So now I have an exercise for you. Pause the video and add the other or remaining drawable images to this array. When you're ready, just play continue, and then we can continue building or writing our codes in order to create our application. So hopefully you could successfully add the other dice images to our dice images array. So now let's add a comma r.drawable.dice3, comma r.drawable.dice4, comma r.drawable.dice5, and finally comma r.drawable.dice6. That's it. Now we have our array, and we also have a reference to our image views. Now what we are going to do here, let's go inside this onClick method. So here we have already created an object of type random, and this object is going to create random numbers. So now let's change the upper bound of these random numbers to number 7. So now it's gonna generate a random number between number 0 and number 6. Okay, so now that we have these random numbers, we can use it in order to randomly just select one of our dice images and show it to the user. How we can do that? So here, after this log statement, I'm still inside the curly braces of this onClick method. I'm gonna say dice image 1 dot set image resource. So we are going to set an image for this image view from the resources, okay, the resources of our project. How we can do that? We can either say r.drawable dot, for example, dice2, and we can run the program, and when I tap on this button, it's gonna set the dice image 2 on that image view. Not what we want for our application. We want to randomly select an image from the array of our images and set that image to our image view. But for now, as an example, I just wanted to show you how you can set an image by using this method, setImageResource, and getting the image from the resources of your project. So let's run the program and see the result. Let's tap on this roll the dice button, and here you can see when I tap on this button, the dice1, the dice image 1 image is set as dice2. Okay, but now let's go back to our code. Here, instead of saying r.drawable.dice2, let's change it to another value. Let's refer to our array. Let's say dice images, and now I'm gonna put a pair of brackets. The bracket is used here in order to pass the index of the image that we want to access. So for example, if I want to access a specific element that I have inside the dice images, I need to use the bracket syntax. So here, if I say dice images, and I want to access the third element, which is going to be r.drawable.dice3, I need to put a pair of brackets, and I need to pass the index of that element inside the array. So the index of the third element inside the array is 2, right? Because we always count from number 0. So in this way, now I can access the third element of this array. So let me comment out this line of code. Now let's go back to our onClick method here. I'm using this syntax in order to access a specific element. But what is that element? I want that element to be selected randomly. And I already have a random object that does that work for me. So I'm going to use the myRandomNumber here, because I know the myRandomNumber is going to be a number between 0 and 6. And we also know that we have 6 elements inside the dice images array. For example, dice 1, dice 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this means that the index of the last element, the dice number 6, is actually 5, because we count from number 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But here we are generating a random number between 0 and 6. So this means that we are going to have the index number 6 randomly at some point. So just keep that in mind, and let's go ahead and run the program, because I want to show you a very important thing about arrays in Java and in programming in general. So let's open our emulator, and then I'm gonna click on this roll the dice. So it's gonna generate a random number, and based that number, an image is going to be put here inside this first image view for the dice one. So let's click on roll the dice. Now it is 5, roll the dice. And now our application is crashed. So this means that if you go back to Android Studio and then click on this logcat here, we should have something here. First of all, inside the search bar, just delete this tag if you have it. And then here we have this verbose. We want to filter out some of these elements because we don't need them. We want to only see the cause of that error. So I'm going to click on this error, and here we should see some information about why our application crashed. So if you don't see anything here or anything useful, let's just go back to our emulator and then open your application again. Now I'm going to click on roll the dice, roll the dice, roll the dice. And now our application is crashed. If you go back to the logcat, and you can see the error, right? Here we've got some information. And here we've got the array index out of bounds exception. So this means it says the length of the array is 6. This means that we have 6 elements inside the array. And we used an index 6, right? And that's not right, because the index of the last element of the array is 5. We don't have the index number 6, and we cannot use that. And that's why the array index out of bounds exception is thrown and our application is crashed. And here we have this main activity.java:51. It says that the error happened in this code. So if you click on it, it's going to show you where the error actually happened. Here, in line number 51, the error happened and our application crashed. So what's the problem? The problem is that we only have 6 elements inside the array. And this random object is actually generating a number between 0 and 6. So this means that if I pass the number 6 as the index to this array, dice images, our application is going to crash because we only have 6 elements, and this means that the index of the last element is going to be the size of the array number 6 minus 1. So the index is going to be 5. And we cannot pass an index that is out of bounds of that array. So the maximum index that we can pass to this array is index number 5. So this means that in order to solve this problem, we need to do something here in line number 47. So this is an exercise for you. Go ahead and pause the video and solve this problem, and then run your program and see whether your application crashes or not. And then continue playing this video in order to see how I am going to solve this problem. So hopefully you could successfully solve the problem. So here the solution is to change the upper bound of this random object. So instead of 7, we need to pass number 6. So now it's gonna generate a random number between 0 and 5. So now the maximum value that this random object is going to generate is going to be 5. It's not going to be further than that. If you go ahead and run the program, you will see that your application won't crash after clicking multiple times on that button, on that roll the dice button. So let's click on this roll the dice button. 4, 6, 3, 1, 4, 2. So if you click on it, you can see that it won't crash, okay? The crash won't happen again, and this means that our application is actually debugged. Here I wanted to show you how to find the error and how to debug your application. You'll also learn more about debugging and advanced debugging in Android, but for now, that was just an introduction to debugging in Android. Okay, so now that we have the first image view to be changed based on that number, we are going to also change the second image view, the dice image for the second image view. It is also should be selected randomly. So this is also going to be an exercise for you. Go ahead and give this exercise your best shot. And in the next video, we're gonna solve this problem together.